There we go. And yeah, if you want to chat amongst yourselves, please do. Once we start the presentation, we will mute everyone. This is a bit of a unique situation for us. We are going to play a recording from the Leadership Institute conference that happened in February, which I was fortunate enough to attend. And at that time, so this presentation is done by Jeff Price, who's the marketing manager with IABC International. And we are so privileged that we will hear Jeff speak back in February, and then we were going to hear him speak actually after the session. He is available. His lovely face is nodding up and down there if you can see him. And so please, he's going to be checking the chat throughout the video presentation and welcomes the conversation to flow through there. And then he and Micayla, Felicion-Davin, are joining us, and they will be available for Q&A afterwards. So we're so lucky that they are joining us. And this session is for you to help you better understand how to market to your membership and work closely with our folks in IABC International. So we'll just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll get started.
Just so I understood that correctly, Wendy, you're going to play Jeff's video, or are we supposed to click that link?
Oh, no. I'm going to play it. So we're all going to watch it together. Okay. And hopefully my system doesn't crash, because I'll admit I'm in a remote area and technology is not always my friend here. And so Gabby's sitting there ready to hit play, I hope, in case my system goes down. And then we're going to watch about 40 minutes of Jeff's session, and then we're going to turn it off, and then we're going to go live. That's the intention.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for asking that. And I'm talking to myself on mute. I recognize that. I was just saying we're up to about 15 people now, so we're looking good.
All right, 102. I think we're ready to get going here. What do you think, Wendy?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Gabby. I love to talk to myself on mute, apparently. I have the best conversation. So welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to invite you to this very unique Dare to Lead session. It's kind of a conference within a conference that we're offering you right now. Because we are going to, or I'm going to play a video recording from one of our sessions called Marketing to Your Members that was presented during Leadership Institute in February. Now, you may have heard that conference dropped, and I'm sure you, as chapter leaders, you will find out about that throughout your terms as chapter during your coming year. So more to come on that. But this session is going to be kind of a bit unique. In fact, I'm going to share the recording with you. We'll watch it all together, about 40 minutes of it. And then we have the pleasure of having two very special guests who are actually the faces behind one of them is the face behind the presentation, Jeff Price, who is the IABC marketing manager, and he is joining us from Chicago. You can see Jeff's lovely face nodding up and down right now. So please give him a shout out and say hello. And I'm not going to do a bit of a bio, but Jeff can speak a little bit to his experience if he wants to a little later when we do a live Q&A with both Jeff and then the other person, our special guest joining us all the way from lovely Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, is Micayla, whose name was dropped in one of our earlier IABC 101 sessions as one of the faces and names to know as an IABC leader. So both have generously offered to participate in a live question Q&A session at the end of this presentation. And both Jeff and Micayla will be with us in the Zoom throughout this. So please chat, use the chat to reach out to them, ask some questions throughout, or save your really hot topics, questions to the end, and then we can all address them and hear them together. So without further ado, I'm going to try to do technology. Fingers crossed that this works, and share my screen, and we'll kick this off. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for joining us today. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Jeff Price, and I'm the Marketing Communications Manager with IABC. Been working in the association marketing world for about 5 years, and before that, I was working in marketing and communications agencies throughout the Midwest in the U.S. Entering the agency world, I'm really drawn to content around defining what a leader is. And there's a lot of articles out there about what leadership looks like and what it doesn't look like. So I'm excited today to have the opportunity to speak with you all about, what good leadership is and what good leadership looks like. I'll get into it a little bit later, but in the short answer, I feel like I'm in very good company with good leadership right now. I know the trash can next to leadership can be an off-putting visual, but I just wanted to share a quick story about my special guest today, Felicion-Davin. Many of you know Danielle and have had the great fortune of working with her. And I've also shared the great fortune of working with her on this presentation and many other initiatives as she's the incoming chair for IABC. I had a conversation with her a few weeks ago, and she mentioned something in passing that really stuck with me. And she said, Danielle, I don't know if you remember this, but you said, if you see garbage, put it there. And I thought to myself, okay, well, that's really easy to do, but also definitely, I think that's a great point. And I think one of the reasons that it stuck with me is because in a simple statement, in probably a passing moment, she led me. The statement empowered me to make the call on what I think is garbage, but it also aligned me to her thought process and her vision, and it directed me into action. And I think that the same type of leadership is exactly the type of leadership that's active and present at IABC. And a big part of the reason why I'm proud to be here and proud to be a part of the team. The leadership qualities of empowerment, vision alignment, and giving directive and taking action are what make the IABC experience meaningful, as I'm sure the same goes with your working positions. A good symbol of leadership at IABC, I thought, is a mountain, which I'm sure it's similar to many leadership metaphors, but it fits here so well. First and foremost, it's an adventure. The IABC experience is incredible. But as with the case of most associations, it's about taking out of it what you want to, and then what's going to take you to that next step. And then there's the elevation part, and there's elevation at work at IABC and within the communication profession. Communicators, I believe by nature, elevate everything that they touch, whether that's, taking a single communication to the next level or delivering, on a messaging strategy that elevates or reframes a situation. I think it's magical, but I also think it's the work. And at IABC, we're also focused on elevation, elevating the member experience, and elevating volunteer leaders to be the best brand ambassadors to IABC and to your chapter or region and to your members. And that's kind of what leads me into the benefits of IABC overall. And what I wanted to do is start with, talking a little bit about my role and my experience. And I can confidently say that most people join a professional society or an association for mainly two reasons. One of those is the professional development, and the second is networking. And depending on the association that you're with, professional development might be slightly more important than networking, or vice versa. But for the most part, it's those two reasons. And those two reasons are also the two reasons why IABC has created the membership experience that they have. It's around the benefits of professional development, resources, having those resources available, and the people that make that experience invaluable. You as leaders are the experience of IABC for many, and the way that you talk about IABC and the resources that you have available to you are critical to an individual's member satisfaction. For many of you who don't know, I'm about 7 months into this job at this point, and I can already see so much opportunity ahead with IABC. But I also think it's going to take a certain mindset to get there. And my goal as the marketing and communications leader on the team is revolved around delivering the resources that you as chapter and region leaders need to make the most out of that experience for your members. And I think that starts with connection. Connection at IABC is a lot of things, but I define it in 3 ways. It's the opportunity to meet people, it's the professional recognition through communications, and it's working together. And here's what I mean by that. Connection is a big benefit of IABC membership, and at the international level, there are so many opportunities to actually connect. We have international events like LI and the very event that you are joining us from today, and at the World Conference. And it's also the volunteer opportunities that we have open each year on international committees and the various task forces that we develop to create more member value, like the advocacy and the DE&I task forces that were recently created. It's also about recognizing members, whether those achievements are made professionally or through IABC. Recognition is a big component of actually feeling connection. And whether, you're at the chapter level or the region level in your virtual meetups, or, posting content on behalf of members, or, from our perspective at the international level, developing, content with individual members or spotlighting members within the bulletin. Connection to IABC happens when your work and your presence is recognized. And that is something that we want to continue to grow even more over the coming year. We have many events throughout the year, which I'll talk about shortly, but our goal is to use these events to recognize members. And I was actually talking with a colleague of mine a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how the unofficial slogan of IABC should be promoting communicators at every chapter. And I say this because the meaning is twofold. On one hand, we have members at all stages of the career roadmap, whether they're just starting out or, like many of you on the call today, business leaders. within their companies and within their clients, whatever the organization might be. And then the second meaning is about how we focus on celebrating the professional accomplishments of members. If you look at our membership, there are over 6,000 reasons to be proud to be a part of IABC. And as chapter leaders, you have the ability to more clearly and intentionally highlight those members to your audience. One great resource for that is the Hub, which I want to highlight over here. It's not only a great place to ask your questions or share your insights to a global audience, but it's also a great place to recognize the work of your team and of your membership. The Hub, back when it was launched a couple of years ago, was meant to be this digital community of IABC members, and today that community is thriving, and it's still growing. And I'd encourage you to check it out because there's a lot of potential there for celebrating the profession and recognizing greatness within our community. Creating connection is one of the tags that we use a lot at IABC, but I'd also say that the inverse of that is true too. And at IABC, we connect creation. Communicators are also creators. And whether you take that as more of like a philosophical approach, where we're connecting individuals, you could also take it in a different context that means we're connecting through the thoughts, the ideas, the work, and the passion behind those creators. And that's what I believe happens at IABC. And it happens because we have the tools and resources available to make that connection. We have a lot of tools and resources available for members to get involved in, including the Gold Quill Awards, which I'm just going to plug really quick here because we just closed entry on the 2021 program. So thanks to all who participated in that. We had more than 470 individual submissions from around the world. And in a year when so many things change so fast for so many people, it's really showed that communicators stepped up. And the best part, in my opinion, besides winning, of course, of Gold Quill, is the professional evaluation that comes with it from your peers and other communication leaders. One of the other tools that we have to offer at IABC is the Job Center, where you can post your open positions or you can find your next role. The Job Center is a great part of the experience, especially for members using IABC to network and figure out kind of what's next for them. And, there's also something we launched this last year is virtual resources and tools that are available to members in a resource page, and I can share that link out in this chat and include it in the presentation afterwards. One of the benefits of this kind of new virtual world is the increased inclusivity and options for connection that in-person events can't necessarily compete with. For example, IABC members are available to attend upcoming sessions from IABC Nashville, IABC Chicago, and IABC Phoenix through the end of the month. So you can kind of connect in how you want and see how other chapters or regions are doing it. Like I said, I'll include a link in the chat, or Micayla, if you want to send that out, that would be great too. But all in all, we're trying to do things a little bit differently now. And as a part of that, what we want to do is increase access to and improve the promotions of and define a better member experience with all things available at IABC and at every level. One of those doing things a little differently and improving was around the Catalyst, the content hub that we have available, and launching a new content strategy at the end of last year. One of the ways in which we would like you as leaders to, tap into this is to get more involved in the Catalyst brand, and whether that's, participating in the actual contribution of that content and, including it in your member marketing plan, or, tapping into a new podcast that we just launched. About a month into my role, I was actually on a call with Dan Gold where we were talking about the IABC podcast. And within that, Dan mentioned that he was in the process of transitioning it over to us. And so, we recently took that in, and we, as of this year, we launched the Pod Catalyst, which is now off and running, and we encourage everyone to take a look at that. And then, any of the content that you see on Catalyst or Pod Catalyst is something that you can share with your members. And if you want to contribute to, we really encourage you to do that. We are always looking for the next article or the next episode, and the topics vary. They range from, business acumen to even more time-sensitive topics and relevant topics like racial injustice or, COVID vaccines in the workplace. We actually just released a new podcast with Smita Tharoor, who's actually joining us this week as the closing keynote. But all in all, there's a lot of great content available. I encourage you to check it out. I also wanted to spend a few minutes today talking about education and networking that we have available at IABC. And for IABC members only, we create frequent webinars with subject matter experts that are meant to inspire or educate communicators on a certain topic. I just took a quick screenshot of some of the recent webinars that we've put together for the IABC membership, and for you to use in any way that you'd like. And if you ever see something that you want to post, you are more than welcome to do that. If you ever see a gap and you identify a need and you want to put forth your subject matter expertise, we can connect you with the right people to make a webinar happen and get that out on the international level. In addition to developing webinars for our members, we also partner with IABC sponsors to provide additional learning and professional development. So those are also offerings that we send out to all members and post about on social media. On the same wavelength as the education program, we also have the IABC Academy, which includes a lot of great courses that are available to members at a discounted rate. And it allows them the opportunity to connect even further into the profession. We have some courses available on, using social media as a crisis brand newsroom, or the art of project management for the internal communicator, or enhancing organizational reputation. It's really a robust offering that we have in the Academy. So I encourage you, if you're not familiar, to definitely check that out. And, if you're interested in developing a course on your own, same goes with the webinars, definitely feel free to reach out to us and we can help you navigate that process. And then I can't mention education without also talking about, the membership discounts that are available to more robust and larger educational and learning opportunities through IABC. We have the partnership program with Gallagher called the Accelerate program for internal communicators, as well as the World Conference, which I'm very, very excited to be a part of the team helping to build that out this year. I think that the World Conference is also a pretty good segue into talking about networking. The virtual delivery of World Conference this year is going to take virtual networking to that next level. We, heard the responses last year, and that's something that we're building into the World Conference program now. So more to come on that, definitely in the coming months. But networking as a whole is something that I will say was a rougher transition as we were moving to all things virtual. I think networking now is meeting members where they're at. And if you think, back into last March, there was definitely an adjustment period of getting on camera, opening Zoom, figuring out if you're going to be the one coming off Zoom to tell someone that they're muted, or, whatever the situation might be. It came with challenges, but I'd say, where we're at now is also so much more advanced and so much more confident when it comes to like getting on a screen, even though you're in your apartment or you're in your home, or you're in your workplace and it's still open. There's a lot more opportunity for us to say, here's the virtual offering, here's the experience that we're going to build around that. Last month, Micayla and I actually had the opportunity to join the Southern Region Leaders Call. And as a part of that conversation, we were talking about the wonderful ways to connect digitally. And, just hearing and being a part of that call is many of you are doing that and doing it very well. One of the takeaways was that there are members who don't want to be on a Zoom with everyone. There are members that prefer to be in breakout rooms. There are members that like the, more one-on-one, let's have a coffee meetup type of thing. And there's also members who like a more opt-in, on-demand experience. So I think one of the key findings that we have around networking now is creating a diverse set of experiences that members can connect with and opt into on their terms, based on their preferences. And that's a little bit a part of the conversation that I'm hoping that we have in the Q&A towards the end of this breakout session. But very important learning that is still ongoing, but that I wanted to talk about today. And then the last thing on the benefits, and I won't go too far into this because I know that Sia also is scheduled to talk about this at LI. But at the end of last year, our CMP certification became ANSI accredited, and this is a big deal to those who have already been certified and those that will be certified in the future. So there's more to come on this as well, but we're in the process right now of developing resources for you as leaders to share with your members and to build into your communications around the certification process, and how to get involved, how to find out more information if you're interested, and things that you can use to support your members in their certification or recertification process. So going back into marketing, I think everyone's pretty much familiar with the 4 Ps of marketing, but with IABC and with most associations, I would say that the 5th P is at the center of everything that we do, and it's you and it's our members and it's us as the staff team. And we're all the people behind the association, and we're the reason that we're able to propel the association forward. Which, leads us into, you as IABC leaders. We're also in the process of developing Leader Center 2.0 in conjunction with the Council of Regions. And, right now we're more in the functional requirements stage and mapping out what it is we want. And I'll give you a little bit of information. What we want Leader Center to become is the Swiss Army knife and the recipe box that you as leaders can use in running your chapter, developing education or events, whether they're in person or virtual, reviving an awards program, or developing a new resource for your members. At the top of the list for this functional requirements and this Leader Center is more and is better. We want more resources, more videos, more case studies, more marketing materials, and then we want better navigation. We want better planning resources for you as leaders to communicate out to your members, to have what you need available at any given time. We want Also, better communication channels open between chapters and regions and international. And, as we're thinking about gearing up for, making these improvements later this year, we're really excited to, have this one hub and to create Leader Center as it was, designed to be, is like this optimal hub of all things that you need to know to, be an effective and an efficient leader within IABC. And so earlier I mentioned too that leaders are the IABC experience, and I wanted to touch on what I meant by that. So, if you think about the average member of IABC and they want to learn more and they want to be more involved, where do they go? They go to you for all of those answers. You are their main point of contact. If they have any questions about, how to get more involved, what should I be doing? Is the gold quill worth it? Should I put the justification letter in to attend World Conference this year, next year, 5 years? Is that going to matter? You are their point of contact with that. The questions that we usually get on the international level have to do with, my technology is not necessarily working right now. Like, how do I do this? Or, how do I access my membership profile? So I think, there's questions that they go to you for, there's questions that they go to us for. So opening up those communication channels is going to be so important for you to also be able to share kind of the questions you're trying to answer and get feedback from, all these different sources that we have available within IABC. And then, kind of simply put, IABC is a brand, and IABC leaders are the brand and the brand ambassadors. And within that dynamic, my goal overall is to work together. On the international level, we want to not only hear from you, but we also want to be working with you to develop the resources that you need to be more effective in your chapter, to be more effective in your region, and within your leadership position. I think all in all, I want all of us to work together on membership. So I have my contact information at the end of this so that you guys can definitely write it down, take a screenshot, whatever you want to do. But, I want us to be partners in membership. And, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And either myself or Micayla would be, happy to help in any way that we can. And Danielle, I'm actually going to pass it over to you. Danielle is our IABC chair-elect and our current chair of the IABC Council of Regions, and she graciously offered to hop on this presentation with me and co-present and talk a little bit about the volunteer experience and what you have going on with CORE. I'm driving the presentation, so you're going to have to tell me next slide.
Thank you, Jeff, and hi, everybody. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of work that we've been doing at CORE around the volunteer experience. And the reason that we've been doing this is really just to reinforce what Jeff was saying, that volunteers are at the heart of our association and the member experience we offer. But what's the experience that we offer to our volunteer leaders? And how could we think about that experience in a sort of a user-centric way and use that to improve the support that we provide you? So let me take you through the outputs of what CORE have done. We, through our region chairs, have met with lots of the chapter leaders, had these conversations. I spent a lot of time one-on-one with each chair to really understand their own volunteer journey and experiences. And we've put together a framework which will underpin the Leader Centre 2.0 reimagining that Jeff's spoken about. And also, I'm hoping will inform some of the work we'll do in the coming years. So Jeff, if you could just take me to the next slide, please. So what are the touch points? If we think about our volunteer leaders, what are the key things that we have to do through our chapters in our regions and international? Is firstly to attract our volunteer leaders, to onboard them, to help them understand, the association and what their opportunity is for them as volunteer leaders with the association. And then we also want to develop ourselves, our leaders, as volunteer leaders for IABC, but also our own leadership capability. And yesterday's excellent session with Catherine was just such a great illustration of how we can do that. Next slide, please. So when we think about attraction, our goal here is, as an association working between chapter, region and international to improve talent attraction. I know there are some chapters who are spoilt for leadership, and others that struggle to attract sufficient volunteers to share the work and to build a more vibrant chapter. So how could we go about improving how we attract? And one thing I'd just point out, and apologies for the small typeface, but this is a working document rather than presentation, so I'm just sharing the framework as is with you. But one of the things that was really interesting, at the same time we were looking at this, Neil Griffiths and the DE&I task force were also looking at attraction, and it was really pleasing to see us independently arrive at a very similar place in terms of the opportunity for us to be more intentional around being more diverse and inclusive and representative of all the faces of our association around the world. So what did we decide that we understood? Well, we know that personal outreach is a strength. So this volunteer leader community, we're really good at going and tapping people in our networks on the shoulders, bringing them in to volunteer. Succession planning can be a challenge, and we need to be intentional about that. Particularly I think when you think about generational shift, we need to bring, not to put too fine a point on it, we need to bring the next generation of professional communicators into the association so that we can replace ourselves as we go off to retire into the sunset and fish, write the novel, whatever is in our futures. And diversity and inclusion really needs to be proactively addressed. One of the challenges of strong personal outreach is that we perhaps are just tapping people like us on the shoulder, and we're not opening up the association for the talent that's out there. So what we felt we need, and some of this we've got, right? Some of it we just need to surface it through Leaders Centre, capture it, package it, make it available. Perhaps we need an ultimate guide to volunteering at IABC. What's it like to be a volunteer? What are the opportunities? Jeff spoke about celebrating our volunteers. Let's have a program, a PR campaign to celebrate our volunteer leaders. Our nominations committee. So this process of open call and bringing people into the association with our own international IEB process that we're in the middle of at the moment, that Victoria has led with the DE&I task force guidance on how to make it far more inclusive. Let's share that. Let's share that right across all the levels of the association. And if you are struggling with attracting volunteer leaders, let's give you some support and lessons learned from others in our community who've done a really great job of building a diverse group of talented leaders. Succession planning in a box toolkit. What are the tips? How do you plan for succession in a deliberate way? What else? We acknowledge that there's a fear of commitment sometimes. There's a perception, rightly or wrongly, that volunteering can bring with it enormous responsibility, and perhaps I'm not ready for it, and fair enough, right? But perhaps there's also micro-volunteering opportunities to bring people in. Perhaps it's not an officer position, but there's something else. How could we help think about this attraction piece more deliberately and therefore build the future leadership for the association? Next slide, thanks, Jeff. The other touch point that we've been looking at is onboarding. What's our goal here? Well, we want to help our volunteer leaders to understand what to expect on their journey as a volunteer with IABC and how you can make the most of it to connect to people, to tools, to experiences. So what do we know? There's an opportunity to do some standardizing. Go pick best practice, pull it together. Perhaps volunteer leaders are not as aware of opportunities that might be available to them outside of their chapter. So let's lift that awareness. Is there an opportunity to connect people who are performing similar roles in chapters and regions and international around the world so that ad hoc networks can become less ad hoc and really come together? LI is such a great place to start that conversation. There are rich resources that exist, if only we could find them, right? So what do we need? Perhaps a volunteer leader onboarding roadmap. What does that look like? Micayla and the team introduced some online onboarding last year, which is excellent, which if you haven't done it, Micayla will send you a link, but all new leaders, we're going to encourage them to do this onboarding training. Perhaps we need to do a sort of a transition in a box toolkit to help with that handover between outgoing and incoming volunteer leaders. We spoke about the networks and the potential of bringing together those that are addressing this in their own chapters and regions and taking the best and scaling it. What else? Perhaps an alumni. We know that there are obviously people in our alumni communities. In Vic chapter, I know who all the previous leaders are, my own chapter, but could we be more deliberate about pulling together that alumni community? Perhaps alumni, are still very keen to be a support, a mentor, a coach, a buddy to current leaders. Wouldn't it be good if I could tap and connect myself with some of and I will be doing this, the past chairs for council advice and support? Could we make that easier for our volunteer leaders? Next slide, please, Jeff. And then there's the development aspect of our journey. We want to build a world-class talent pipeline of volunteer leaders to advance the profession, because being a volunteer leader is actually advancing the profession, but also it will help us advance IABC. So what do we know? We know that volunteer leaders are looking for opportunities to create connections, to advance their careers, to learn new skills. And Leadership Institute is a brand and a program with huge potential to differentiate the IABC volunteer experience. And I'm so excited to have more than 200 volunteer leaders at this year's LI. And the fact that LI is now not just a one event a year, it's a 12-month program of connection. So that I think is huge potential that we can tap into, that CORE is very keen to help support. And through the development and through perhaps the LI brand, we can scale mentoring and buddying programs. We can perhaps prepare, I love this ultimate guide, you can see it's one of my favorite phrases, sorry, but the ultimate guide to being a volunteer leader mentor, that checklist, the ultimate guide to being a volunteer leader buddy. How can we connect buddies and mentors from around the world? You don't just have a coach in Kansas, you could have a coach in the United Kingdom. Volunteer leader development roadmap needs to underpin this curriculum, and we really want your feedback, ongoing feedback on how the curriculum for LI can help you develop and improve what's missing. And what else? We know COVID and the resulting economic downturn is impacting each of us in so many ways, but it is also impacting our ability to be volunteer leaders. So how could we respond to that? Well, let's just adopt an experience mindset. Let's just think about the experience that we're offering. We think about the experience we're offering our members all the time, and we design programs to enhance that experience. Well, let's not forget the experience that we offer each other, and make it easier to be a volunteer, and make tangible rewards and opportunities that volunteering can bring, especially in turbulent times. So that is the end of the roadmap. If I could just take to the next slide and just do a big shout out to CORE. So these are the leaders that I spend a lot of time with at the moment, and they have been a wonderful team and have been critical in developing this plan for improving the volunteer leader experience. So I'll hand back to you now, Jeff, because I know we now want to open up for conversations, questions, answers, but thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Danielle. So we are moving into the Q&A portion of the call.
Okay. Back to live, everyone. Bright faces on, videos on. Let's pepper Jeff and Micayla with lots of questions about either what was covered in the presentation or burning questions that you may have just in general. Or I know many of you are also very new to your role as possibly marketing directors for your chapters. So, you know, what are your concerns? What are your questions? Has what you've seen just in the past 40 minutes just gone completely over your head? You're like, I'm still trying to find out what my member number is, or, you know, are you at that stage, or are you, you know, and please, I think I'm going to speak for Jeff and Micayla, I think comfortably saying this, you know, you're going to have questions on this journey as a chapter leader beyond today, certainly, and certainly once you start actually dipping into your portfolio more and getting a sense of what your expectations and what your role is going to be, reach out to them and chat about ideas and thoughts, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to hear from you. So, you know, I was so scared that if I did anything, check the chat or did anything else on my computer, that it was going to jeopardize the presentation. So I didn't get to see if there was any questions, but please either feel free to ask questions in the chat, or, you know, let's see your faces and ask those questions now. So I'll pass it over to you, Jeff and Micayla, and thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, we can open this up for questions. I know originally when the video aired, we spent a little bit talking about Leader Center and Leader Center 2.0. And then we also talked a little bit about virtual connectedness. So maybe we could start some questions if any of those, if we have any outliers of those topics, we can start with those and then kind of lead in.
Jeff, I just see that Phoebe has a question, so maybe we can throw to Phoebe.
Perfect.
Sure. Just a question. I'm in Edmonton, and I will admit that we probably don't market as much of the international stuff as we should be or could be, and focus more on some of the local pieces. But and part of that might be because I assume that all of the members are getting it from you, because we do get a lot of emails. So what I'm wondering is, what does everyone get the same information, or how is it sent to the chapters, and is everyone who's got a membership getting, you know, an email every day, for instance, or what's the kind of strategy and plan for how you guys market to people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, email is a primary channel for us, as I am sure it is for you all as well. I think that's the most direct approach that we have to communicating out. I think it kind of depends on who you are a little bit. We've been more tailored and targeted in our messaging that we've been sending out. But I think for us, it's a little bit like making sure that, you know, everyone gets the message and everyone knows. And then kind of going back to your first point about, you know, what's your role in marketing the international programs? I think they're just there for you to use, for you to show additional benefits to your members. I think that's that's the role of the academy is, are you ready to kind of take that next step? Do you want to do more specialized online education with a subject matter expert? Then that's the route for certification. If you want to get those credentials at the end of your name and have that endorsement, that's your route. And then, for professional communicators overall, I think sharing is a big component of that, and the content that we're able to publish and the collaborative nature that we have with all of the chapters and regions. We're always open to sharing ideas. And so if you are working with a member and they're really interested in XYZ and we want to put together an article, send them our way, because we get the message out, and we can share that to the 6,500 IABC members on the international level. Did that answer everything?
Yeah, I did. I was just trying to figure out how often we'd be repeating ourselves. But of course, if they see it more than once, that's okay too. So like everyone gets Catalyst. Not everyone gets the Leader Center, right? Like that's specific to this. Everyone gets like hub pieces. So it's segmented a little bit that way. But yeah, so and I guess if they hear about something more than once, that's okay too. So just trying to figure out what you're communicating and what we should step up and embrace a little bit more too.
If I could, sorry, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind, I just was going to step in. I'm a chapter member in Calgary, and I think is an example of a chapter that's really done a good job of integrating both our own local chapter news as well as drawing in relevant and current and stuff from the international, as well as other chapters actually. So I've really found in the last year, like I've been a Calgary chapter member for 6-7 years now, and I've never felt more engaged with a particular member newsletter than I have of that particular one. I think it really evolved it this past year. So I really would cite it as an example. And I don't know if any of our Calgary chapter marketing portfolio leaders are on the call, that maybe they want to step up and talk to kind of the strategy behind it. But as a member of that, seeing it from the outside, I think they've done an excellent job, and I've felt very engaged through their process.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to add into the chat. So on the last Tuesday of every month, we do send out the leader letter, which only goes out to chapter and region leaders. And in a previous edition, when we were onboarding this current term of board members, we sent out an edition that has a link to all of the promotional toolkits that IABC has. And so I'm going to link to that particular edition so that you can bookmark that and see some of the different, we have, marketing toolkits for different things that might be of interest to you.
I was going to ask, just over the past year, I imagine obviously a lot of the activities that you have to do are virtual just by nature of it being international. But did you find that any of the things that we've been doing this year differently because of COVID are something that we'll adopt going forward that might be of interest, or that might be amending our business a little bit moving forward?
Absolutely. I think just in the way that we're approaching events, the virtual format or the hybrid format opens up so many doors in terms of inclusivity and how people are able to engage. It's not a purely travel to and then face-to-face interaction. It's kind of on your terms, and we can chat, we can do a video chat. It just allows for so much more engagement and connection. So I think that's a piece of it that we're going to take with us and continue to move forward with. I mean, obviously there's a lot of us that are like, let's get back to in-person meetings and, you know, that connection piece of it. But I do believe that virtual is going to be a stronger component than it ever was before, especially since we've all kind of taken our training wheels off of Zoom and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I am the director of a mentorship portfolio in Calgary, and I've gotten lots of feedback already saying we still want to have a virtual component of some of these things going forward, because a lot of it, of course, was in person, but people actually really like having that option too. So I agree.
I have a chat question here from Shannon. Has IABC looked at an SMS platform for chapters to use?
We have not, actually. I don't think that we've necessarily gone the mobile route. Just as it relates to the information that we collect from members. The phone number is not a required part of it, and then the opt-in process is different by location and by territory. So that's another interesting hurdle that we have with that. But as we're looking at technology as a whole, we're taking a look at our channel strategy and things that were previously ignored. We're kind of revisiting. So I wouldn't be surprised if we created some mobile opportunities in the coming months.
I guess just a show of hands, if we can see everyone's maybe faces as much as we can. Who is new to their portfolio coming in? Like who's just coming in as marketing or communications? 1, 2 that I see, 3. Okay. If there was, Jeff or Micayla, if there was one thing that you could offer these newbies to their role, what would you suggest that they do maybe in the short term, in the next few months?
I would say look at research that has been done, and any sort of engagement data that you have on your members. I think it's been really telling, especially in the virtual environment, of how many people have engaged in those activities or have clicked on whatever it might be. I think it'll be really telling of what your members want and where their head's at. And then kind of integrating, what your chapter does or what your region does or even what international does into that strategy. I think connecting those two dots would be probably the most beneficial, just in terms of also kind of wrapping your mind around everything that IABC does and all of the doors that we have open now.
Micayla, do you want to jump in with any last minute thoughts?
Yeah. My other thought would be, I would recommend the first Monday of every month, the IABC chair has a leader chat, and I would recommend attending that. I think it's a great way to connect with other leaders from around the world, but it's also a really good way to get information about what's happening at the association. And so that will be taking place at 2 different times on Mondays, because we need to accommodate members in different time zones. But I would definitely recommend just taking that opportunity to learn about what's happening at IABC, how the strategy is rolling out, and so on, so that you can use that to influence your own chapter marketing.
Shannon, I see your question. Oh, go ahead, Rosabelle.
Oh, sorry. Do you want to go, Shannon? I know you had your hand up.
Oh, it was just, I put it in the chat. I'm wondering if, I get it with the SMS, but if we thought about getting an app, something more like maybe even at minimum what the World Conference is, but then that is something where you could easily log into the hub and and perhaps there'd be a subsection that chapters would be able to use to be able to push content out to our members?
Yeah, I think that's something that we're looking at. I know with the hub specifically, we're also looking at communities for each chapter, so that they can get involved and share messages that way. Because we do have so many opportunities within that kind of community forum on an international level that there's not a lot of reason why we wouldn't localize it for you to be able to join another community that's just your chapter, and that's another way to get the word out.
My question was in terms of like Catalyst, the hub, is there a strategy that you would say has been the most successful, and what contributed to that success?
Yeah, for Catalyst specifically, we spent a good portion of the year last year taking a look at kind of most read, most opened, and then also we did a series of focus groups across a lot of the different chapters and regions, and what we found is some significant points of content that people were looking for, and it was kind of an incredible time for us, as in the communication sphere last year, because everything was changing so rapidly, and it was, everything that we did or how we disseminated messages needs to be revised or needs to be looked at. So we had so many opportunities to develop some content around that, that I mean, it's kind of staying opportunistic a little bit with your approach to how you're developing content. But I think it's also, promoting members and spotlighting your members, and being able to connect your member who does blank with a member in the APAC region who also does blank and wants that global perspective on what they're doing.
So I see we've hit the 2 o'clock mark. I want to take this opportunity to thank both Micayla and Jeff for generously giving us their time. And I put the link to Jeff's presentation if anyone wants to tap into it. Know that the Leadership Center has other sessions on there that have been already broadcast through the year. And I assume that same kind of strategy is going to be going forward as well. So remember to check in there. And we will be sharing this recording on our Dare to Lead video archive as well. So you can check back and make notes or whatever you'd like to do, and encourage anyone from your chapter board who didn't have an opportunity to check in, if it's relevant to them, to do so, and reach out to Jeff and Micayla and as you need to. So thank you, everyone. And thanks to our wonderful IABC staff for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.